Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I'm doing a follow-up video to my initial Star Wars Battlefront breakdown. We've gained some additional information over the past couple days, giving us some cool new ideas about what multiplayer might be like, and we also got some cool information about the upcoming films. Now first off, there's been a developer diary video that came out showing us a little bit of new footage, not very much, it's mostly recycled footage from other things, but we got our first glimpse of what the first-person view and third-person view will look like when playing on a co-op screen. And although this image here is a little bit pixelated, it gives you a pretty good idea of just how the graphics are going to look. And let me reiterate again, although I said it in my first video, I saw the 5-minute gameplay trailer showing the actual in-game footage, and the graphics look just as good as the trailer that was released. So anybody who's skeptical about the visuals, I'm just telling you now, as soon as you see what the gameplay looks like, it is as good as that trailer, and it's going to blow your mind. Now, a lot of other information was gathered through various interviews, dev Q&A sessions, various tweets online. One thing that caught my eye was the fact that AT-ATs, although they are in the game, they're going to be on rails. It looks like you might be able to, say, spawn in one or control the guns of the AT-AT, but it doesn't look like you're going to be able to control what direction it walks in. From a player perspective, this certainly is a bit of a letdown. From a game designer perspective, it's somewhat understandable just because the AT-AT is a massive behemoth with tons of firepower and tons of armor. How do you balance that in a game? Now, the AT-AT for sure will be in one of the confirmed game modes called Walker Assault, where rebels must take down an AT-AT while the Empire troops basically defend it and support it as it moves forward throughout the map. The footage that we see in the trailer and in the 5-minute gameplay appear to be on the Walker Assault game mode. Now, it also appears that Y-Wings are something that you won't be flying in the game, at least not in this game mode. You call these in as sort of like an airstrike. They'll come in and bomb targets for you, but it's not going to be a vehicle you can hop into. However, you will be able to fly the Millennium Falcon around some of the game modes, and that's a pretty darn big ship, so I'm looking forward to that. Now, because the Jakku DLC was confirmed to have the one planet of Jakku and 2 new maps, everybody assumed that there was just going to be 2 maps on each planet. This is not the case. At launch, there's going to be 4 planets with multiple maps per planet beyond 2. So we can assume, I would say, at least 12, maybe more maps. And they've also reiterated that the maps are going to be of all different kinds of sizes. So large, big battles to small, probably troop-oriented combat. Now, we're given a little bit more information about the Battle of Jakku, which takes place 1 year after Episode 6. It's basically about the New Republic, the Republic that formed after overthrowing, or rather killing, the Emperor, and they're attacking Imperial holdouts, which are on the planet of Jakku. So during this battle, it's going to show us how the Star Destroyer crashes, why it's there, and probably give us a pretty good backstory as to what's going on to get us ready for the film that's launching soon after this DLC. Now, obviously, people have been really curious as to what heroes you can play as. We know Darth Vader and Boba Fett. There's going to be plenty of more heroes, as the devs have said, but they also said that they're going to be a little bit more specific to the maps that you're playing on. So I would imagine if you're playing on the Jakku maps, you're not going to have Darth Vader as a character because he will be dead according to the timeline at that point. So maybe Luke will be one of the characters you can play on Jakku. It'll be interesting just to see how those heroes are chosen based on the maps. It also doesn't appear that there's going to be any 3D spotting in this game, so that'll be very interesting. One concern about that, though, is when you're playing on maps like the Forest Moon of Endor, when you're playing as the Rebels, well, you have kind of green camo. You'll blend in with the Forest quite nicely. And if you're playing as the Stormtroopers, well, you got that bright white camo. It's not going to blend into the Forest. So you might actually see some camouflage advantages in that situation. One nice thing about these stark visual differences between the Rebellion and Empire is that you probably won't be confusing the enemies for friendlies at any point in time. It'll be very clear who is on whose team. Now, you might be concerned about what kind of character customization you can do in this game, because I mean, if you're a Stormtrooper, what are you going to do? You got your Stormtrooper outfit, you got your basic blaster. How much further can you customize your character? Well, according to the devs, there's going to be tons of customization, lots of unlocks, and lots of assignments and other cool like aesthetic unlocks and stuff like that. So this should be good news for anyone who likes to invest a lot of time into their shooters and get lots of cool prestige unlocks. I hope they don't allow you to change the visual appearance of your character too much. Obviously, you don't want any stormtroopers running around with pink camouflage or something like that. Now, if you're at all curious about the gunplay in the game, it does appear that the guns are going to have cooldowns rather than reloads in game. So it should give you the same kind of downtime that a reload would have in a normal shooter, but this means that potentially ammo might not be an issue at all. Now let's talk about one of the bigger criticisms of the game so far, and that is that the player count is capped out at 40. It seems to be a universal cap on whatever system you're playing on. Now, Battlefront 2 had a cap of 24 players on the PS2, it had 32 player cap on the Xbox, and 64 players on Windows, so it's only a downgrade for PC players. That being said, I'm sure people really wanted to see those larger scale battles, and the fact that the Battlefield games have been able to push 64 players on all platforms at this point gave me some hope that we would be seeing a higher player count with Battlefront, but it doesn't look like that's the case. And it doesn't take long to do the math with a 40-player max server. Well, you got 20 players per team. Say you have an equal vehicle versus infantry combat setup, so you have 10 infantry and 10 vehicles per team. Well, things already seem a little bit small, so you have to shrink the map down to make it feel like it's an intense battle and lots of stuff is going on, and therefore you're probably going to have smaller maps already compared to some of the Battlefield maps. The game mode Walker Assault in fact reminds me a lot of Rush, which does function better on smaller player counts in my opinion, 32 or 40 players in Battlefield, so if they mimic that in Battlefront that's cool, but it doesn't sound like they have a big enough player count to mimic some of the larger conquest type environments that the Battlefield fan base really enjoys. So if there's any Battlefield players out there expecting some sort of larger conquest based Star Wars game, you probably won't get it in this one simply because of that player limit. Again, this is all speculation and I could be totally wrong in that DICE has done an excellent job of balancing the maps and organizing them in a way that is going to make it feel like it's action-packed and non-stop the whole way through in a large scale, even if it isn't necessarily a huge scale. Anyway, it's fun to speculate about these kind of things, but frankly, we just need more information before we can draw any sort of concrete conclusions. Now, in case you're interested in the films at all, there's been some information come out about another Star Wars movie coming out in 2016 called Star Wars Rogue One, and it's about the rebel team that went in to steal the plans for the Death Star that allowed Luke Skywalker to blow it up in Episode 4. And if you do a little bit of Googling, you can find a leaked trailer for this film. It sounds like a really cool premise, and I'm sure they could also make some very cool games based on this. Hopefully some really cool shooters based on maybe stealth tactics in a Star Wars game. I don't know. It sounds cool overall. Can't wait to find out more. Anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for this Star Wars information and speculation video. I'll be covering the game as more and more information comes out on it. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.